Driving alone on a deserted highway at midnight, I noticed a solitary figure by the roadside, thumb extended. Normally, I wouldn't pick up hitchhikers, especially not at this hour, but the pouring rain and something intriguing about her made me pull over. "Need a ride?" I asked, rolling down the window. "Yes, please," she whispered, her dark hair plastered to her face, eyes deep and unreadable. She wore vintage clothes as if from another era. As she settled into the passenger seat, I asked, "Where are you headed?" "Just a bit further ahead," she replied softly, staring straight ahead. An uneasy silence filled the car. Attempting to break it, I turned on the radio, but only static came through. She adjusted the dial, and an old tune from decades past played. "I love this song," she murmured. "You have an interesting taste," I commented. She glanced at me, her eyes reflecting the dashboard's glow. Sometimes the old things are the best. The rain intensified, and the windshield wipers struggled. "Terrible weather tonight," I said. "Storms can be cleansing," she sighed. Noticing a faint bruise on her wrist, I asked, "Are you okay?" "Not all wounds are visible," she replied, her smile fading. "If there's anything I can do..." "You've already been kind." The radio faded into static again. She pointed ahead suddenly. "Turn here." I saw a narrow, unmarked road veering right. "Are you sure? It doesn't look safe." "Please," she insisted. Against my better judgment, I turned. The overgrown path led us under a canopy of twisted branches. After a few minutes, she said, "Stop here." We'd arrived at a rusted wrought iron gate, partially open. Beyond it stood a dilapidated house, windows dark and empty. "This is where you live?" I asked skeptically. "For now," she said. She stepped out into the rain. "Wait," I called. "Do you need..." But she was already walking away. I exited the car, rain soaking me instantly. "You shouldn't go in there alone." At the gate, she turned back. "Thank you for the ride." Then she vanished. Heart pounding, I ran to where she'd stood. "Hello? Where are you?" Silence answered. I pushed open the gate and approached the house. Inside, everything was coated in dust, as if untouched for years. On the mantel, I found a framed photo. It was her. Behind it, a newspaper clipping read, "Local woman disappears after car accident, June 12th, 1955. A chill ran down my spine. As I turned to leave, her voice echoed softly, "Not all who are lost want to be found." I dashed out, started my car and sped away. The rain had ceased, but the road seemed endless. Reaching the main highway, I exhaled in relief. The radio sprang to life, playing the same old song. Her voice sang along, though she was nowhere to be seen. Without looking back, I drove until dawn broke, the night's events haunting me forever. Running on fumes late at night, I was relieved to spot a flickering neon sign, "Last Stop Gas." I hadn't seen another car or building for hours. Pulling in, I noticed the station seemed frozen in time. Vintage pumps, old Coca-Cola signs, and ads for cigarettes at 25 cents. "Evening," said a voice behind me, making me jump. An attendant stood there in a crisp 1950s uniform. "Didn't mean to startle you." "Just need a fill-up," I said. "Regular unleaded?" he asked, beginning to pump gas. A female attendant appeared, offering me a steaming cup of coffee. "Long drive ahead?" she inquired. "Yeah, heading to the next town. Thought I'd never find a gas station." She exchanged a glance with her co-worker. "Not many travelers come this way." Feeling uneasy, I asked to use the restroom. Inside, it was spotless but outdated. Turquoise tiles, a porcelain sink. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the room appeared decayed, abandoned. Shaken, I hurried back outside. The attendants were gone. The pump read, "Fuel delivered, 0 gallons." My car's tank was still empty. "Hello?" I called out. "Looking for something?" the male attendant said, suddenly beside me. "It says no gas was pumped." I stammered. "Let's try again," he smiled, lifting a nozzle that had no hose. Fear crept in. "What's going on here?" "Perhaps you're tired," he suggested. The female attendant appeared. "Why don't you stay a while? "I think I'll find another station," I said, heading to my car. It wouldn't start. Panic surged as they stood in front of me, their smiles widening unnaturally. "You're not going anywhere," she whispered. I grabbed my phone. No signal. "Stay back," I shouted. They advanced slowly. "We don't get many visitors. It's lonely here." I ran toward the road, but the highway had vanished, replaced by endless barren land under a starless sky. Turning back, the gas station was now a ruin, windows shattered, the neon sign broken. "What is this?" I whispered. "You can't leave," their voices echoed, though they were nowhere in sight. Inside the dilapidated station, dust-covered empty shelves. On the counter lay a newspaper with the headline, "Local man missing since 1955. The photo resembled the male attendant. Cold dread washed over me. Footsteps approached. The attendant stood in the doorway, flickering between solid and transparent. "Join us," they said. I bolted out the back, but every direction led to the same desolate landscape. Exhausted, I collapsed. They appeared before me instantly. "There's no escape," the woman whispered. Desperate, I pleaded. "What do you want?" "Company," the man replied. "Stay with us." "No," I screamed. A blinding light flashed and everything went black. I awoke to sunlight filtering through my car window. I was parked at an old, abandoned gas station. The pumps were rusted, the building in ruins. My car started effortlessly. The fuel gauge read full. I sped away, not daring to look back. In the rearview mirror, I saw the attendant standing by the roadside, watching me with hollow eyes. I never took that route again. But sometimes, late at night, I still taste that bland coffee and hear their voices whispering, inviting me back to the last stop gas. Driving alone on a dark, endless road, I fought to stay awake. Flipping through radio stations, I stumbled upon an unfamiliar channel. "Good evening, traveler," a voice crackled. "If you're hearing this, heed our warnings carefully." I chuckled nervously. Interactive radio? But the tone was unsettling. "Slow down at the upcoming curve," the voice insisted. I eased off the gas. Moments later, a deer darted across the road where I would have been. My grip tightened on the wheel. "Wise choice, but the night is full of dangers," the voice continued. "Who are you?" I asked. Silence followed. A hitchhiker appeared ahead, thumb outstretched. "Do not pick him up," the voice warned sternly. I sped past, catching a glimpse of his hollow eyes. My heart raced. Later, the voice spoke again. "There's a fallen tree blocking the left lane ahead. Merge right now." I hesitated, but complied, narrowly avoiding a massive tree hidden in the darkness. "Why are you helping me?" Panic seeped into my voice. No response. The road fogged up, visibility dropping to mere feet. "Take the next exit," the voice directed. I saw a dimly lit ramp and turned onto it, arriving at an old gas station frozen in time. "Wait here until dawn," the voice advised. Parking near the dim lights, I felt uneasy but safer than on the foggy highway. "Thank you," I whispered. "Be cautious," the voice replied. "Not everything is as it seems." A figure emerged from the station, a man in outdated overalls, face obscured by a hat. "Need some help?" he called. Remembering the warning, I stayed in the car. "No, I'm good, thanks." He approached slowly. "It's not safe out here alone." My instincts screamed to leave. I tried to start the car, but the engine failed. Panic set in as he reached for the door handle. "Lock your doors," the radio voice commanded urgently. I slammed the locks just as he tried the handle. "Let me in," he demanded, his voice distorted. "Leave me alone," I shouted. He pounded on the window, cracks forming in the glass. "Find the key under the mat," the radio instructed. I fumbled under the floor mat and found a rusty key. "There's a shed behind the station. Go, now." Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the opposite door and bolted. Racing behind the station, I spotted the shed. "Use the key," the voice urged. Hands shaking, I unlocked the door and slipped inside, locking it behind me. Darkness enveloped me until a soft glow emanated from an old radio on a shelf. "You're safe here," the familiar voice assured. "Who are you?" I asked. A pause. "Just a friend." Footsteps circled the shed, followed by eerie whispers. "What do they want?" I whispered. "To claim another lost soul," the voice said gravely. Time dragged on until the first light of dawn filtered through the cracks. "It's safe now," the voice said gently. Peeking outside, I saw the fog had lifted. Cautiously, I returned to my car, which started without issue. As I drove away, the radio remained silent. At a diner in the next town, I recounted my tale to a sympathetic waitress. "You've had a rough night," she said. "Coffee's on the house." As she walked away, a familiar melody played over the diner's speakers, the same that preceded the mysterious warnings.